Just minutes before it was to take effect, a U.S. federal court judge blocked President Donald Trump's latest order to freeze government spending on federal aid. Trump's directive caused panic and chaos among states, schools, and organizations that rely on trillions of dollars from Washington. But the administrative stay is only in effect till Monday afternoon. As promised, Trump has already issued orders to halt all foreign aid, freeze hiring, and shut down diversity programs. His administration has also offered buyouts of federal workers to shrink the size of the government. The White House has yet to comment on the court order, but Democrats have since called Trump's spending freeze unlawful and dangerous.
U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, sweeps have gotten underway with multiple raids in cities across the United States. In New York City, for instance, U.S. Secretary for Homeland Security Kristi Noem oversaw the roundup. In a post on X, Noem said, "We are doing this right, doing exactly what President Donald Trump promised the American people, making our streets safe. I'm on it." Several people were arrested, which Noem said were criminal aliens, with some having outstanding warrants. The ICE said it has made an average of about 710 immigration arrests daily since Thursday last week, up from a daily average of about 311 in a 12-month period through September under former President Joe Biden. All right, let's try to get updates on this issue. We have with us again Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo De Vega. Good evening, sir. Thanks for being with us again.
Happy New Year. Good evening.
Oh,
Happy
that's
New
right.
Year.
And you're
Happy
wearing
New
red.
Year.
I just noticed. Happy Chinese New Year. The topic we're talking about tonight,
You
unfortunately,
work too hard. You work too hard, ladies.
yeah, I know. We wish
You too.
We also wish we could take the day off, but yes. First things first, I want to get an update on the numbers. There were news reports from this week that said that about upwards of 20 Filipinos had already been deported, and some 80 OFWs, are undocumented Filipinos rather, are still waiting in line to be deported. Can you give us an update on the numbers, please?
Let me clarify that. Ambassador Romualdez was the first to report that, and I got the written report. Those 24 were not deported or are not being deported under the Trump administration's deportation program. This was the total number of Filipinos who were deported from the United States between October 1 to January 18, just before the Trump administration took office. From the first Monday, January 20, of the Trump administration's assumption of office, up to at least last Monday, according to our embassy in Washington, there was not one of any Filipino citizen who was deported. Now, there are a pending number of 16 who were already in the pipeline. In fact, who were already in the custody of the ICE and may be deported in the next few days.
Sorry, is that...
But if you count it, the 24 were not deported because of this new mass deportation program of President Trump.
Sorry, did you say 16 or 60?
This is ace.
16.
16.
Okay. 16 are in line, have been detained by the ICE in the U.S. awaiting deportation to the Philippines, correct?
Yes, but they were caught even before President Trump took office.
I see.
And you will see that the Trump administration is already implementing the Trump administration's, long commitment, long promises to engage in these mass deportations. But if you note, from the beginning, I think they knew, it's clear, they knew who they were targeting. And they were not targeting places where Filipinos are, where our overstaying Filipinos are. They seem to know which kinds of overstaying aliens they wanted out. And they were those with pending search warrants, meaning pending criminal offenses in the United States. We've always said and reminded the public that the Trump administration was always saying they'd go out after criminals, after terrorist threats, and after those who were brought in by the Biden administration without any economic purpose for the United States. In other words, millions who were just brought in are some sort of refugees, but who have not been contributing to the U.S. economy. We don't think the Filipinos fall under that. Of course, our ambassador has already advised the Filipinos, if you can, go home on your own. At any rate, whatever your decision is, our embassies are there to assist you, embassies and consulates.
Yusek, can we get some clarity, some more clarity on the 16 that are in line? Now, I understand that this was these are Biden deportations and not Trump, but I'm just curious, while we're on the subject, can you give us a profile of why they're getting deported? Is it just because of being undocumented immigrants, or did they commit some petty crimes or stuff like that?
I don't have the, and neither does the embassy have the full details. One thing for sure, they're overstaying. So look at it this way. If you count 24 plus 16 in the last few months, that's only 40 Filipinos. That's not anywhere near the 300,000 that we fear are subject to deportation. So if you look at it in perspective, all countries have the right to send home overstaying aliens. And we already have 350 or 370,000 Filipinos who are overstaying. If there are a few hundred who are deported every quarter, and of course, under the Trump administration, this number is bound to increase. We have to admit that. It's going to increase. But if there are only a relatively few Filipinos who are deported every year, let us say 1,000 or less than 1,000, you look at it in perspective, it doesn't mean that we're going to see a very worrisome trend of suddenly all the Filipinos being forced home before the Trump administration ends its term of office. So the thing is, for those Filipinos who are concerned, again, tulad ng payo, as Ambassador Romualdez said, go home on your own, legalize yourselves. That's another option. And there are Filipino-American lawyers now offering legal services for this purpose. Or if you cannot do either, just don't attract attention to yourselves. Now, we don't want to sound, as a partner of the United States, that we are consenting to Filipinos becoming illegal aliens. But we are the Philippines. We protect our overseas nationals, and the United States knows that. And no country is going to help the United States deport its own citizens from the United States. So the U.S. understands that. So if you say, well, mga kababayan, just avoid being noticed. Certainly don't fall under those categories. Don't commit a crime against an American citizen.
Yusek,
And I think we're not going to see a massive number of Filipinos brought home.
Yusek, it's good that we're hopeful about that. But would you have an updated number? You've been making this call already for a few months now. How many Filipinos have actually approached the embassy or the DFA for help on legalizing their papers? And under the Trump administration, have there been Filipinos who have been the spotlight or have been detained by the ICE?
I just said earlier, zero. At least as of Monday, zero. None. But the first question was about how many. I can't give the exact numbers, but for sure, there must be a few dozen. There's the embassy in Washington, plus various consulates. But remember, Filipinos are very resilient. They would know themselves how to contact their own lawyers. So I'll make this call again for Filipinos. If you need assistance, with getting a lawyer. We are in touch with Filipino American lawyers who are working under the Filipino American Legal Defense Group, or the FALDEF, or Filipino American Legal Assistance Fund. It's a group of lawyers helping Filipinos, Phil-Am lawyers. We'll get you in touch with them. Apparently, Filipinos pretty much know what to do without contacting our posts. As for Filipinos who have gone to the embassies, to our foreign service posts, better put, to say, I want to go home, I want to renew my passport or get a travel document so I can go home, or maybe could you even sponsor my ticket? So far, none. Unless I get another report tomorrow, there's not one who has gone through it. And we sort of expected that. And all of us have kamag-anaks or friends in the United States, some of whom may even be overstaying. And we're not surprised, are we? Yeah. That no one has gone to the ambassador or the consul general to say, help me go home.
The other issue is, of course, the scenes of the ICE raids are dramatic, but then the other thing that's getting secondary attention is the fact that he's ordered to an end to birthright citizenship, which I feel is more relevant to Filipinos who live there. There's a lot of mixed status families. For instance, the parents are H-1B visa holders, and the child may not be entitled to American citizenship anymore, or one of the partners is on a working visa and the other is a green card holder. They may not necessarily be granted the same rights anymore. What is the official embassy advice for mixed status families?
Well, first of all, every country has the right to determine who is or is not a citizen of that country. I think what the U.S. is doing is adopting what the United Kingdom already did decades ago. There was a time that the United Kingdom, for example, gave nationality status to everybody born in the United Kingdom. And then some time ago, they made it possible only if at least one parent were a UK resident, UK citizen, or at least a resident, a legal resident. I think the United States is applying that, although for our part, this is something internal to the United States. We already announced that. We're not going to tell the United States who is or is not a citizen, as long as every Filipino is given the due process of law whenever they are arrested in the United States for deportation, for criminal prosecution, any other reason. Secondly, as for the advice that we will give, well, we're telling Filipinos, we would advise Filipinos just to be vigilant, pay attention, consult the consulates or the ambassadors to know their rights if they fall under those categories. The law cannot take effect retroactively. In other words, if a child was already recognized as as a United States citizen because the child was born, for example, last August in the United States of two illegally residing parents, but already the child was recognized as a U.S. citizen, the law cannot simply take out the child's citizenship. However, the law may be amended such that the citizenship of the child will not be a legal basis for the parents, either parent, to be given legal residence in the United States. Unfortunately, that may be the case. So we're asking all Filipinos, consult the consulate embassy and see what's going to happen, because there are a lot of legal petitions being filed against this new order or this new set of laws. So we'll await what the U.S. court system decides on whether this is constitutional or not.
Okay. But in general, though, Yusek De Vega, do do Filipinos in the United States commonly go to the consulate or to the embassy to kind of like consult? Because normally they will approach an immigration lawyer, right? But I'm just wondering,
Yes.
do people walk in and be like, "Hi, consul, pwede ba ganito, pwede ba ganyan, pa-advise
It's not
naman."
very frequent, but they email more than show up. They might email, and then they're already happy with an email reply.
Okay.
Keep them coming. By the way, this is very common. We have, and it doesn't fall hindi lang Pilipina, ha? Foreign women who have a U.S. visa, who are about to give birth, who will go to the U.S.
Yeah.
just to give birth
Yeah.
there, so that their child becomes a U.S. citizen.
Yes,
That
it is.
will not happen. That will not have the desired effect, possibly, not anymore. So that's another advice, piece of advice we have to give. As much as we may like the veneer or the protection of the United States for our children, these moms should consider that that might not work anymore in the future.
Yeah.
But again, we're always available, and mga Filipinos sa US, just like Filipinos anywhere,
Find ways
they
around
are
it.
resilient. They know how to protect themselves. In fact, if you notice, the ambassador gave the advice. Kung saan loob na kayo umuwi, kung pwede. And the Filipinos some of them were not very pleased with that advice. In other words, they felt, kaya namin to, we can weather this. We can weather this.
Right.
So we're, cheering them on. I'm sure, iba yung ganito na they go around TV, give interviews, lambast the Trump administration, and they're illegal. Huh? It's like they're putting a target and saying, deport me, please, deport me, please. We're not advising that. Now, if you are a legal resident, and of course, a naturalized citizen, by all means, you have that right.
So just lay low.
But if you're overstaying,
Yeah.
how are you going to do that? That's another piece of advice we have been giving.
Right.
That's true.
And I think the Filipinos know that. Some, of course, will do what they want to do. It doesn't mean we're not going to help them in case they are arrested.
Right. Yusek De Vega, sorry, I need to shift gears right now because I'm cognizant of your time, and I did want to touch on another subject, which is, the other Trump order that has caused shockwaves was when he put a stop to all U.S. foreign aid. And you were quoted as saying that that shouldn't severely impact the Philippines. And to be honest, I have trouble believing that because the Philippines is a major recipient of U.S. aid. In fact, just last year, they had 175 projects in the Philippines, and I looked up the numbers. They spent upwards of 190 million on various projects across the country, ranging from education to health to emergency response to even local governance. So if you could just flesh out that idea for me, the idea that we're not going to get severely impacted by the aid that was frozen in the United States.
Maybe I wasn't misquoted, but perhaps I didn't put it the right way. I'll try to explain it now. First, you will see that there have been other government offices who have said the same thing. PCO said that the Philippines is studying the case, so we hold off on too much commentaries on this until we find out the final decision of the U.S. Number two, there are some people like some members of Congress, even NERA, who appear confident that we still can work even with this executive order, because a lot of the U.S. aid is not direct aid from the U.S. to the Philippines, but goes through filters, so goes through agencies, organizations. But let me tell you what I meant. What I was conveying was some optimism, because this is a review. They did not say that aid has been permanently stopped. They are reviewing the aid for purposes of seeing which countries should continue to receive such aid and whether this serves the purpose of the Trump administration and the United States. And I was conveying the confidence, especially since our Foreign Secretary Enrique Manalo spoke with the U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio, and the two confirmed our solid partnership. Therefore, that I think we're not suddenly going to see a dramatic deduction in the aid packages for the Philippines. That was the hidden message I was trying to convey. Another one is that, well, we're Filipinos. I mean,
Well, you
it's
said
not going to be the end of the world
resourceful.
if we don't have USA, right?
You said
We'll have to show how resilient we are. But again, everybody's acting as if it's definite. The U.S. has cut aid to the Philippines. This is a temporary measure. They're studying it. And of course, you know, we will be working with our U.S. partners on it. Much more I can't say. I'll defer to the Foreign Secretary and other officials higher than me to make the final announcements on this.
Well, Yusek, there has been a TRO on that EO by President Trump.
On what? TRO on what?
There has been a TRO, temporary restraining order, issued on the freezing of the foreign aid directed by President Trump. So what are the marching orders now in terms of getting that money? Because when you say you are reviewing this for a certain period in time, that also means a delay in the disbursement of that fund. And we know a delay is very critical when it comes to serving issues like health aid, emergency aid, disaster response aid. All of that will be affected by a 90-day pause. So what are the marching orders now with the threat of President Trump that he might suspend those who disobey his order?
The marching orders have always been that the United States is a key ally of the United States, of the Philippines, and that we are to continue to engage them as our strongest bilateral partner. The Trump administration has taken over. We are working, as announced, on a possible meeting between the two heads of state, eventually. So we are not working on the basis of panic. We're working on the basis of a partner, of a superpower, maintaining a level of maturity as we engage in a healthy bilateral relationship with the United States. It's not one of medicacy, but neither does it mean that we don't want aid from the United States or we don't need aid. So much more I leave to others to discuss. But definitely, we don't intend for the Philippines to be removed as a key partner of the United States. It may be that at the end of this review period, the United States shall cut aid for certain countries.
Yeah.
They haven't for Egypt and Israel, which is not a surprise, honestly.
Yeah.
Or cut aid or limit the amount of aid that they give to certain countries.
Right. Okay.
Philippines does not intend to be one of those countries, and we are certain that some countries will maintain their level of aid. So I was trying to maintain a level of optimism. But ladies, Chinese New Year, we're proud to be Filipinos. We are not going to suddenly die if we don't get aid from any country.
But it's a lot of programs.
I feel
it's a lot of
certain
programs.
tension. Naku, mag-deport na lahat ng Pilipino. No. Or, naku, we can't survive for 3 months if we have no aid.
Okay.
I think we're better than that.